This is Chasing the Cutoff with Troy Eid. Conversations with professional people age 40 and older who balance busy careers with excellence in endurance athletics and extreme sports. From Denver, Colorado, here's Troy Eid.
Welcome to Chasing the Cutoff. I'm Troy Eid, and with me is Mark Vega. Mark, welcome.
Troy, thank you. Glad to be here. Nice to see you with that Denver behind over your shoulder. Wow.
And where are you, Mark, today? Where are you coming from?
I'm in Los Angeles, so this is my office and my studio.
Well, excited that you made the time to be here today, and you know, I've admired your podcast, and I want you to tell us all about it. But I think even before I do that, let me just say you've been through some tremendous challenges in your running journey. You started a little later than some of us did, but you got really good really fast and very determined and bumped up your race distance all the way up beyond 200 miles. But you overcame some health challenges. And I know we're going to talk about that. So this is a conversation for everybody who wants a little bit of inspiration, because I find you, as someone who's 62 and you're 62, I find you to be one of the more inspiring people out there. And we're here to help each other. And I'm just very grateful that you take the time to have this conversation.
Oh, I love it. What a setup, Troy. 62 feels good, doesn't it?
Well, what do you think? How do you feel right now? You're sitting there. Do you have any aches and pains?
Yeah, I feel really good. And aches and pains, sure. As you know, as training goes along, you feel it. And sometimes I feel if I don't feel the right kind of, if I don't feel a little bit of aches and pains and stuff that needs to be stretched out and do some mobility flows, then I know that I feel like I'm not recovering properly, right? Like I have to feel a little pain, but I'm just a baby in this. You're the beast. So I've been really fortunate to be able to interview with the Run Long After 60 podcast, a bunch of people who've just done really hard things, and they're older than me. And it's really inspiring. Really inspiring.
So when did you start your running journey?
I ran track in high school, right? But I'll be quick. We're 62. If we told every story, that podcast would be 6 hours long, right? So I'll go quick. But I remember running track. I ran low hurdle, 110 low hurdles. And I was also a pole vaulter, because there was no pole vaulters, but I love those giant mats. So I love to try it out and do it. So I went to a bunch of meets and finally was able to pole vault over the 10-foot bar, which is like the lowest bar there was. And, but I wasn't fast enough to do any of the other races, and I never did any distance races. I don't know why that is. Fast forward to decades after, when I was in the military, and I was in the U.S. Army, stationed in Korea, Seoul, Korea, and we had to run PT, physical training, right, a couple days a week. And I knew that my fitness was much higher than many others just because I had a high metabolism. So I used to run as road guard. Road guard is you wear the safety vests, and as the platoon is, jogging down the street, hustling up the street, double time, the road guard sprints to the front of the next intersection, stands there, waits for the whole platoon to pass. And then once it passes again, the road guards at the back sprint ahead to the next intersection. So I did that for a number of years, and really loved it. So, but while I was in the military, I tore both menisci. I tore both, or wore down my patellas, my kneecaps, and both knees, oddly, while I was working in the military. And so I had to cut back on running. So I cut back a little bit. And I didn't pick it up till decades later, when I had a stroke. I'm a practicing lawyer and a hustling entrepreneur, got a couple of businesses going on. And one morning I woke up with a cup of coffee. Do you want me to get into this story, Troy? But I got into it.
I hate to drag you through it, Mark, but I think it's important to try to understand how did you know it was a stroke? Did you know it at the time, or what were you thinking?
I love that you're a Greenberg Traurig lawyer, and that you're practicing, and you've got such a resume. It's so impressive, and I'm really humbled and glad to be here talking with you about chasing cutoffs, or chasing the cutoff. I was, and the reason it's sensitive is now 10 years later. But man, for the first couple of years, you can't, as a practicing lawyer, you can't talk about having a major stroke because you're not talking about a heart attack. You're talking about the brain. And the one thing we need as lawyers is our language skills. We need our skills. So I was running a couple of companies in West LA, but my firm was based there, and I had co-located with my firm was these other companies I had created and was running. And one morning, an intern came in, and I was going to give him some instructions about how to put some photographs into a different folder and arrange things. And I get there, and I'm talking to this guy, describing to him what I need, and the words are just disappearing. And I only need to tell him to put the photos in the folder and put it in a separate folder under a different structure, a file structure. But what I told him was, well, the photographs, when we have folders, if you couldn't, I have a website. And so my brain, I'm like scrambling in the moment, like, what the fuck is happening? And I pause and I say, you know what? I think I need a whole pot of coffee. Kathy will help you out. I'll be right back. So I tell Kathy, my COO of one of those companies, and my right-hand person, Kathy, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to say something I never said before. I'm going right to the doctor. She was like, oh, okay. So I get to the doctor, and he doesn't know what it is. I keep talking because I can tell my words are disappearing. So I get to the doctor, and he says, take this baby aspirin. We need an MRI. I'm trying to schedule you one. I can't do it till this afternoon, but you got it. Something's going on. I said, okay. By the time I get home, my wife did the research. She's like, you had a stroke, man. We got to get you to a hospital right now. So long story short, I have a major stroke, one side of my brain. I get admitted to the hospital. It was at Cedars. That's a whole nother kind of a story. But anyway, I get admitted, and I'm there for 5 days. And for the first couple of days, all my words just like disappear. I feel like in the Matrix, when you see those green numbers going, right? The image of that, that's what it felt like. All of the letters are dropping out of the dictionary. And I don't know how much I'm going to lose, but I have this sense that it's never coming back. Luckily, that wasn't true, but that's what I felt. So within a couple of days, I'm talking to my most important clients, and I have to tell them, I said, look, I had a stroke. And they're like, but I said, look, but it's going to be okay. I just need to let you know that's what's happening, and we're figuring it out. And they could tell that they told me later, like, you sounded strong. You're going to be fine, which was true. But without the language, that's called aphasia. But without that, you don't know what other kind of deficits are happening. It's just that the words are the one thing I noticed, right? So after a week, the words seem to come back. Over time, they come back. And that's how I got into running, because my doctor's like, you got a high metabolism, but I think you might need to exercise some. Can you start walking? You should start walking. And I told the doctor, I said, look, man, I used to run, but my knees are messed up a little bit. But if I start walking, I'm going to poke my eyes out with pencils, because I imagine, old people walking around the mall. That can't be me. Can't be me. I'm 51. I told him I'm 51 years old. Come on. So this is 2015. So he says, okay, you can run a little bit. So I learn. I start to run. And then I start to do some research. Like, what does it mean to run? Can I run long? How does it work? How fast can I go? And we're really worried about the heart and your heart rate, and like, don't let it go too high, because even though this is a stroke, ultimately it was an ischemic stroke, but the diagnosis was embolic stroke of undetermined source. And like 3% of all strokes are that. Like, well, we don't really know what caused it. We don't know how to prevent it. We don't know if it's going to happen again. That's not very reassuring, but that's what I had. Over the left side of my brain. It was like a skid mark on the MRI. You could see a skid mark like the width of my pinky over the left side of my brain. And I start to run a little bit more and more and more. And I have set my sights on my first marathon. The Los Angeles Marathon is 2016, and it's Valentine's Day. So easy to remember the date. This is, by now, stroke happens in June. And by September, the end of September, we'd done so many tests and this and that, but it was like time to start training. So I never did that. So found a coach online, discovered Training Peaks, this great training platform. I'm a data guy, kind of a data geek. Bought at the time, it was a TomTom watch. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to do this. So I start training for the LA Marathon.
So I have to pause. I got to pause you, Mark. So I want to make sure that I'm tracking this because you've had a stroke and you describe it's a significant event in your life. And you have the stroke. And then within a period of just months, you're deciding, oh, I'm going to run a marathon. Now, I think there are probably people out there listening, watching, saying, I think I better take it easy. I had a stroke. I think I better not do anything for a long time. So what was going through your head that made you want to say, I'm going to go run a marathon since I haven't done that before?
It's funny. I think it's because you're a Greenberg lawyer, and I'm so grateful that this is the setup, because honestly, anybody that hears a guy has a stroke and never did this before, and a couple months later, and he's 51, he's going to run a marathon, the first thing you're going to say is like, I don't want him to be my lawyer. That guy's crazy.
No, I just want to understand. I think it's great, but I want to understand because it's counterintuitive to the message that the world would typically give you, which is that you need to lie down and not take life, so aggressively. You need to be more sedate, and maybe you should, learn to feed the birds and buy a bird feeder.
Because I'd run in the military, and because I'd run previously, I saw myself as a fit person. And I'd been to the gym many times and had different types of parts of my life where I was working out all the time, but I just wasn't running. So when the doctor prescribed walking, that's when I was like, well, this is fine, but I got to run. Can I at least jog? Like, I don't even know how to do that, but I'll figure it out. So they said, yeah. But I got to say, the stroke community is an interesting community. So I felt wasn't necessarily shame, but it's a little bit like survivor's guilt, a little bit, because the type of stroke I had was pure aphasia. Now, it's been 10 years, and every once in a while, something will happen, and I'm like, oh, man, that's an artifact from the stroke. So the brain's a beautiful, interesting, machine, right? It's a beautiful organ that does a lot. But at the time, after the first stroke, I thought, I wanted to really respect people who had strokes, because I met a lot of people, and those people were not ambulatory. They were not functional. They were not able to run. They could barely do whatever. So I spent time in the stroke community, and I felt like an imposter almost, right? Like a poser. And so they all told me, no, it's inspiring to see you get out there, and I can't believe it. And, it's very inspiring, but I had no noticeable deficits. So when people meet me, they're like, what? You had a stroke? What do you mean? Like, I can't see it. I'm like, well, yeah, you can't. It's not something you see necessarily. So I think it's just me, Troy. I was determined to get out there, and I didn't see a marathon as a giant hurdle. Even though I'd never run that long before, I was curious. I wanted to see, like, a marathon's a thing. I could probably do it. And once I met a physical therapist along the way, who actually looked at my knees and realized I had scar tissue on both knees, but there was nothing that was going to keep me from running. And somehow in my head, I think I might have told myself at some point, well, you probably shouldn't run, your knees are. And once I realized that wasn't really holding me back, then I was able to run. So that's when the story gets interesting, though, because I'm excited. And a month before that, I've never run long before. So my longest run was my long run a month before the February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2016, LA Marathon. So on January 10th, I guess it was, my last long run before I taper, and like I am learning all these things. I was going to run 20 miles. So I ran 20 miles on a Saturday, and I felt so good. I mean, I was just plugged in, and I was 51. I'm like, yeah. And, even at that moment, people are like, wow, that's impressive. It's good for you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I felt good. And the next day on Sunday, the house is filled with some friends of one of my daughter's friends, and my wife had people there. I don't remember what's going on. What's a Sunday? Nothing, just a chilled out Sunday. And I was making a salad for myself in the kitchen, and I knocked the glass on the floor, and went to pick it up, and I couldn't pick it up. My hand was like this. And I knelt down to pick it up, and my other hand was like this. And then I was like, what? So I called out to my wife, or my daughter, I think. I was like, hey, Evelyn, come over here, help me out, would you? But what my daughter hears is, so my daughter comes in and she's like, Dad, you're such a goofball. And then goes back to her friends. But my wife holding her phone in her hand, in my mind, it's like Tom Cruise sliding into frame on Risky Business, like with a hairbrush in his hand, but instead Rhonda's sliding through into frame with the phone in her hand and steps right into me. He's like, shut up. You're having another stroke.
Oh no.
Be quiet. You're going to scare people.
So when is this? So help us in terms of the timeline from the first stroke. How many months have gone by?
This is 6 months later. This is the first stroke is June 15th, June 22nd, 2015. And this is the second stroke is January 11th, 2016.
You got the LA marathon coming up on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, in a month.
And you've had a second stroke now. So what happens next?
I'm flopping all over there and flopping all around. It was bizarre. I kept talking to her, like saying, nothing's gone wrong. I just can't pick up the cup. It's fine, but I sound like a barking seal. Paramedics come in. I can't even believe they got here so quickly. How did that happen? Somehow they got me talking. I had to agree to them that this is against medical advice, that I didn't want to go to the hospital. But as I start talking to them, and he gives me the phone to talk to the nurse or the guy that admitted me 6 months ago and was at the hospital then. And I put the phone to my ear like this. I can't, I look like an idiot, but they need me to say, okay. And as soon as I do this and the guy talks to me and I start to talk and I realize what had happened. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, sorry, guys, let's go. And so for the first time, I hear myself speaking like that and they know. So I got taken care of. So they went to the hospital, more tests, got a blood doctor after this time and another doctor. And now I had a stroke on the other side of my brain. This time is skid marks the width of my thumb. So even on MRI now, it's like permanent. The brain, you fry your brain cells, they get fried. But the brain, you got so many extra brain cells that, it works around, right? It's a fascinating machine. So LA Marathon's off. And the blood guy comes to me and says, Mr. Vega, with his hand on my shoulder, looked me in the eye and he said, Mr. Vega, had you not been in such good shape, that the second stroke would have killed you. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to know that. And he says, no, Mr. Vega, puts both hands on my shoulder and says, no, Mr. Vega, if you had not been exercising and you had not been maintaining your fitness right now, you would be dead.
Wow.
I heard him that time,
Wow.
Troy. Yeah.
That's amazing. And you knew at that moment that he was not bullshitting you.
Yeah. And so by this point, and I'm still practicing, everything came back. I was good to go. I was proud of myself. Clients are like, yeah, you fucking beast, you warrior, let's go. And so I was happy to do that. Still didn't publicly, for years, I didn't talk about like this, the way I'm talking about it. No way. Because I just didn't know. You don't know how it's going to be received. Talked to a lot of lawyers organizations and state bar organizations, and they want to lump you into the category of substance abuse and other kinds of deficiencies. I'm like, that is not what I'm fucking talking about. I'm had a stroke, but we can analyze it 50 ways, 6 ways from Sunday. You want me to take some tests? There should be a way to help lawyers who have strokes, who some get debilitated and they're gone, out of the picture. Understood. But I knew this was different. There's got to be a way. So I was trying to be an advocate for that for a while, but it seemed to be a dead end because the lawyers who I did meet, who were just like me, they're like, you know what? It's not worth it. I just want to live my life and have my practice and keep the family going. And somebody asked me specifically and directly, I'll talk about it. Otherwise, meh, right? So let's get back to running though, right? Come on. This is January 11, 2016. What's going on? Takes months and months and months of work. Finally, May of 2016, and the election cycle's coming up. A lot of things are heating up, right? Because Trump announces in the summertime, but this is May. And my neurologist says, okay, I think you can run again. I'm like, oh, fantastic. I think I want to run a marathon because, I was so trained, right? He said, okay. What marathon? I said, when? He said, I don't know, November. He said, December. I said, November. I said, November. He said, yeah. Pull up my phone in the moment. And I looked right immediately. And I said, oh, how about New York? November 6th, something like that. And he says, sure. So at that moment, Troy, I don't know anything about New York. I don't know, except it's the biggest marathon in the world. I'm like, oh, okay, let's do that one. So I'm not fast enough to do anything except run for charity. So I run for the National Stroke Association. I raise the money and I run New York. Across the finish line. Takes me a long time. I don't care about the time. I don't have family present there. Nobody's witnessing this because I don't know. I could stroke out. I swear to God, I don't know. But I want to finish it. So I did, crossed the line, cried, cheered for myself. It was great. So you asked me what time it was and I just told you how to make the watch, but that's what really got me into running. And once that happened, I'm like, okay, I'm in now. Now, from a fitness standpoint, I'm never going to stop doing this.
We're in November 2016. Is that right, Mark? That's New York Marathon?
That's right. That was the first marathon, the New York City Marathon, November 2016. And that's what started.
And you and I have both run New York. So we can talk about things we like about it. And what are the things you most liked about that race as your first marathon experience?
Everything. So for me, it almost felt like new skin exposed to the air for the first time you're a receptor. That skin is a receptor to everything, to all encounters, to all the data. So from picking the hotel, understanding how you move there, taking the bus to get to the ferry. Getting on the ferry is an experience all by itself, like just by itself. And getting to the buses, getting on the bus, driving to Staten Island, getting out at Staten Island, trying to figure out the chaos of the corrals. Like, what is all this? It's the first time I'd ever seen 10 tractor trailers, bins lined up. Because when people get there, they start to shed their cold weather gear that they'd had on for a couple hours because sun's coming up. So everybody's taking off their clothes and like putting them in these bins. And so I love that experience for the first time. The cannon goes off when you get in the right corral and you go over the Verrazano Bridge, and it's just like magic. It was just magic. And at that point in time, I had never taken a lot of selfies or anything. But on that race, on that day, I think I was so happy to just be there and be alive and all the things. So I took more selfies of myself and the pictures going in the whole race than I ever had. And I think it might be a little bit Troy, because I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't care, but this is good. If I drop dead, if I stroke out at the wall at mile 20, my family will have pictures of me on the phone, and they'll know I was in a state of joy, right before I hit the dirt. How about you? What's your favorite part of it?
I'm just going to say I commend you for New York being your first marathon, because to me, of all the road marathons I've ever done, New York is still my favorite course, and there's nothing like being able to go through the 5 boroughs without any traffic. It's just the most amazing thing in the world, to see that city and to have all those people doing the same thing in celebration. It's just something else. It's unique.
Crowds, right? The crowds are, and I got spoiled, Troy. Now think of it that way. What do you think? Imagine I'm the first time I go to a marathon, and it's the New York City Marathon, and I think, oh, this is what marathons are like? I'm in.
So how about the stroke consciousness at this point? Are you running through New York and thinking, I don't mean to pry, but I kind of have to in this role, I suppose. Are you concerned? Are you afraid? What is your thinking about the stroke? Are you thinking this might happen? I just have to power through, or what are you thinking about? Or are you putting it all aside? How do you deal with it?
Great question. It's not putting aside, but listen, it's been 10 years and I'm still really struggling to come up with exactly the right words and characterization. You're asking me now, present day recollection of something happened back then, right? So that's
and also now maybe too, Mark. I mean, it's how do you deal with it?
Right. Well, back then I just the doctors, after the second stroke was also embolic stroke of undetermined source. The tricky thing was the doctor's like, look, we don't know what caused it, and we don't know how to prevent it. and we don't know whether it's going to happen again. Like, that is zero assurances of anything. And so the doctors put me on a handful of meds, all the types of medications they could as in the Western philosophy of medicine. But really, from a CYA, we better make sure this guy takes these drugs just in case those drugs end up saving his life if he has another stroke incident. So it was not a good way to manage it all, but what else? That's all we could do. But after years, finally, and this just happened within the last 8 months, my internist, my GP, who was there the whole way, the guy who gave me my first baby aspirin the very first time it happened, and literally that saved my life, that had he not done that, it probably would have cascaded into badness quickly. But luckily that gave me enough time to get the MRI and kind of figure out what was happening. But he took me off everything except the baby aspirin. He took me off a statin, took me off these other regulators that he said, look, you're more fit than I am, and probably more fit than every one of your doctors. And we don't know what's going to happen and whether we can prevent this stroke. We don't know. We still don't know these things, but we do know that those other elements can't be helping you. I mean, I don't think they're hurting you, he said, but this seems so unnecessary. So let's stop. And if anything happens, we'll dial back in. Sure. So that gave me a lot of freedom. So now every morning religiously, I take that baby aspirin, but I don't have any other protocols that I have to worry about. And when I'm running through New York, I'm just, excited that I'm there. And I thought the training was going to pay off. And it was so many people and just the most amazing, embracing community. And this is New York City, right? With all of its stereotypes. But when you are able to cover the earth on foot, all 5 boroughs, there's nothing, you feel like the concept that New Yorkers can come together and the country can come together and all of those things. You feel, that's what I feel. When you start at Staten Island, you go through all the boroughs, it feels so powerful. And I just love it. And I have run LA a couple times, and I've done trail marathons, and I did a tough ruck in Boston out the day before the Boston Marathon in my military gear. And so I haven't run a lot of road marathons, but a handful. But I just know there's something so unique and special about New York that every year I kind of say, I got to get back to New York. And it's usually just some logistics issue of things. But so now I'm fascinated, and I appreciate the body more than ever before. And I still, to this day, though, sometimes something happens. Usually it's a word or it's a connective, some sequence of thinking, and something clicks, and I'm like, oh shit, that was an artifact that just came together, and I don't even know it. That you don't know what you don't know. I'll tell you this: after the first stroke, I could still recite an indemnification paragraph like that. So I'm primarily transactional. I do some litigation. I started as a litigator, so the actual practice didn't seem to be impacted at all. What was being impacted was I didn't know what I didn't know. And there was no doctors who could help me with that. We just didn't know. So I feel stronger now today than ever. So that got me through the second stroke and my first marathon. And I don't hear about lawyers talking about strokes very often. Troy. So when I do like it.
I appreciate your doing it. Have you had any other strokes? Just those 2?
No, just those 2. I think that's enough, as they say.
I don't mean to say just in that manner, but
right. But we still don't know. So, but I'm aging. I'm 62. I do all the right things. I sleep. I drink. I hydrate. I mean, I drink water. I don't smoke or drink. I don't do any of those things. And so I'm pretty aware of things. But I'm much more aware of my body mechanics and everything than I ever was before. I tell my girls sometimes, like, man, I only just learned this. So it doesn't necessarily make them happy. Like, oh, Dad, if it took you all the way till you're 60 to learn this, like, I'm only 22. That's too long to wait. I'm like, yeah, you got to learn it now.
Well, it's very significant that you've gone 10 years without a stroke. What is your take on that?
I remembered every year through the 5th year, and I would celebrate it like, hey, 5 years after, right? And then 6 years after, and then COVID hit. And one of my friends, the first guy he really remembered those 2 dates for me. And so it became less of a momentous event between the years of 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. And literally on January 10th, so just a week or so ago, he texts me and says, hey man, tomorrow's 10 years. And I literally didn't remember what he's talking about. Like, what? What do you mean? He's like, a stroke, man, your second stroke. So that's how it affects me now, Troy. I'm like, it was an event. It really happened. I'm happy to talk people through. I did have some stroke advocates. I actually created something called the Stroke Run, and I was going to actually make a 5K for survivors of stroke and this and that. But I talked to a bunch of survivors, a bunch of stroke advocates, and they're like, that's a bad idea, man. Because people like you are just out there running anyway. It doesn't matter. But it's like, anyway, so I got too much pushback. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't want to. I was already sensitive, like I told you, like I felt already like imposter. It's true. The stroke could take me out like in a second. But anyway, so I put that idea away and aside. So that's how I think of it, man.
So after your first marathon, the New York Marathon in 2016, November 2016, were you hooked on the marathon distance? Were you hooked on road racing? What was your next, series of moves in the running world? What distance did you want to run? And when did trail running become part of your life?
Good question. 2016, November 2016, I finished New York. I'm like, oh man, I'm in. I'm going back to LA. So I think in that year, the LA Marathon was either in February or March of 2017. So just a couple of months. And I did LA and loved it. It was very different, but I had crowds of friends that were along the way, people that I knew. It's to cheer you on as you went around. So that was fun. Really enjoyed that. And so this is in 2017. And I'm training, and I do, a friend of mine said, I talked to him after LA. I was like, I think running on the street is like hard on your body. I'm like, I feel fine, but I'm pretty sure it feels like, and I knew also the difference when I would train on the sidewalks. If I couldn't be in the street, I was running on the sidewalks, and that's like concrete, right? So I talked to him about it. I said, I think there's something different when you run on the concrete. It hurts more than on the asphalt. And that's when he said, you ever hear of trail running? I'm like, no, what's that?
I love it. Had it not occurred to you to trail run before then?
I didn't know. When I get a project, I dive in deep about the thing, but I don't step back a minute to say, well, let's question the thing in the first place, right? I just, it's a thing. Let's see how to get there, right?
Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Canton, Ohio. Home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Great city. And how did you make your way to California?
The military, really. I couldn't figure out a way to pay for college. So my parents, we got in the first year, went to Miami of Ohio in Oxford. Ohio. And the birth of Greek cultures and Greek fraternities and sororities in the United States, I think. So that's Miami. So it was fun for a year, and then I couldn't figure out how to pay for it. So I looked around and couldn't get a job that would allow me to pay enough. Anyway, so I thought about the military. And I was contrary military for sure. I mean, Reagan's in office. I want to be articulate about how I don't like the way Reagan's doing things. And I look around and I realize there's this job. You can be a broadcaster in the military. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. How do I get that? He said, well, you just got to survive basic training and then basically through school. And if they don't kick you out, you're in. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. So told my parents, they freaked out. They couldn't believe. They're like, what? I have long hair down to here, right? It's like insane. I have a haircutting party to go to basic training. So I knew that I wanted to be in radio. And television was kind of not necessarily in my head, but only because I just loved the rock and roll radio stations that I listened to when I was a kid. So I was like, oh, I'm a radio for sure. I'm a radio guy. So I get to the military and get through basic training and get through the MOS training. And I get stationed in Korea as a broadcast journalist. That military occupational specialty, that MOS, has been dissolved. They don't make them anymore. And I think it's primarily because at the time there was just 3 networks and CNN was a baby network. So it was brand new. So there was no YouTube, there was no internet, there was none of that, right? So we, and I'm reconnected with all my AFKN, the American Forces Korea Network personnel. And we get together every couple of months online on a Zoom call. And it's so great to speak with all of them once again. So I really enjoyed connecting with them. And I think I was running in the military while I was there. And that's what first got me to think I could be in shape again, I think.
So where did you go to law school?
I got out of the military in 1985, and we were chasing, my girlfriend and I, who was in the military, became my fiancée, became my first wife. We were chasing broadcasting jobs. So we went from Ohio to New York State. We went in interviews all over the place. We stopped in New York State, did a gig for like 7 months. I took some college classes, and I went to the military to get money for school. So I had the GI Bill that I could rely upon. We end up in Arizona and doing on air. And I heard a breaking news story that this bombastic guy in the East Coast who had a small following, a smattering, somehow this guy gets a syndicated deal for a nationwide talk show. I'm like, this guy's a goofball. How is this possible? And so as the story goes, Rush Limbaugh got me into law school.
Was it Rush Limbaugh?
Yeah. So I heard this guy. I'm like, wait a minute. If this guy gets a deal, I need more ammunition. I got to do something. So I'm in Tucson at the time. So I only applied to Stanford and Yale Law School. I'm positive I'm going to get one of those places because I have a high score. Like, come on, I'm getting in for sure. And I didn't. Like, what? What are you, crazy? What? Those are only 2 schools I'm interested in. One of those 2, diametrically opposed kind of philosophies, but that's what I wanted. One of the 2, Stanford or Yale. Couldn't get anyone. I passed all the deadlines and I reached out to Arizona and they were like, oh, we'd love to have you. Come on in. We're here. So went to law school in Arizona. Loved it and appreciated Tucson. I didn't run in the trails too much, but I did run a couple of times with a friend who was on the team across country. I forget what kind of team she was on, but she was doing ultras and I didn't even know what they were at the time. I just didn't know, but I did get to run with her. And she pooped on the trail once. And that's what told me, oh, this is different game. This is different level. And I'm like, oh my God. I bowed down to him like, holy cow, you are on fire with that. So I won all these oral argument, all the awards that the University of Arizona gives out for oral advocacy. 1992, that's the year I graduated. So in 91, 92, I swept all the awards, sponsored by a bunch of big firms like O'Melveny and Myers and Snell and Wilmer, a couple of Arizona firms. And so that's what got me to law school. And I did moot court and did well with copyright and the First Amendment and fair use arguments, which was our big national moot court problem in 1992. So I knew with my First Amendment background and my broadcasting background and knowing a lot about the Copyright Act and the fair use, and it felt like that was the vibe, right? And my dad always said to me, like, well, Mark, thing about it, he really wanted me to be that broadcaster, but he was scared a little bit, I guess. So he's like, well, a good thing is if you're a lawyer, you can always use the law to fall back on. So I'm like, okay, Dad, sure. Anyway, that's how I got to law school, and that's how I got to lawyering. And at the time when I looked at law jobs, probably at the same time as you, I suppose, but when I looked at law jobs, like, well, look, you can only really practice real law in LA or New York in my head. That was like, that's where you got to be, right? You're not, what kind of impact you're going to have unless you're practicing in LA, New York. Why would I think that, Troy? Because I watched LA Law. That's why I was watching the TV show.
There we go.
So,
who's your favorite character in LA Law?
I don't know. I think Jill Eikenberry was the only woman. So she was very powerful. And Corbin Burnson, of course, was the dry humor. And then the character's name was Moskowitz. I forget what the actor's name is, but that was pretty good. That guy was really good. So was the team, the collaboration that made sense. And so that, and that 444 building downtown LA, like I'd never seen it before, but so I looked and I got fortunate enough to get interviewed they sent a couple of firms to Tucson from one guy who had graduated from the U of A. And I was grateful to get a litigation job right out of school working in Century City. So I thought I hit the home run, man. I'm here. I'm in.
Just to kind of summarize this amazing path. So Ohio roots, and then you end up after a year at Miami University in Ohio, you end up in the U.S. Army, and you end up in South Korea as a broadcaster and learn how to do that. And you're able to leverage that essentially through this path into a career that includes entertainment law, and not just anywhere in Los Angeles. It's quite a journey.
It is. But I got to tell you, I think my dad was right, but the law might have been something that I had been falling back on. And so only after the strokes, only after running, only recently now, maybe it was even a COVID trigger, I'm not sure. But I had clients since 2009 saying, Mark, if you don't get a podcast, what are you doing? And in 2013, when Mark Maron starts his WTF podcast, one of my clients is like, you are a schmuck. If you don't start a podcast now, what are you waiting for? Because people just who know me just know my vibe. And anyway, here we are. It's never too late. Got to do what you can do when you can do it, right? So I'm very excited about all that. And I love that the law has brought me where it's brought me. And I love serving clients. And I love serving clients. These days, my practice is all outside general counsel for individual companies. And so I do a whole lot of work for them. And I've settled kind of into that as a very comfortable way to practice law now.
Your podcast is brilliant, and everyone should subscribe. You should describe it though for those who haven't yet had a chance to hear it. Why did you want to do it, and what are you trying to accomplish through it, and how often do you record, and so on?
It's a little bit of a selfish endeavor, I think, although maybe I'll drop that descriptor because I don't have to apply it to myself necessarily. So I've been thinking about podcast titles since even in 2015, when I'm training for the LA Marathon. In my head on so many long runs, Troy, I'm like, okay, well, how's that podcast going to work? How am I going to make it so blend with my love of running, with lawyering? Like how can I do that? What does it look like? And I remember doing so many meditative kind of runs, long runs, 2015, 16, 17, thinking, how am I going to do it? So I came up with an idea that I call it the law of transitions. And what that meant was I represented a lot of different people. I was advocate for many different groups. So I'm a veteran. So I thought 5 days a week, one show will be about focusing on veterans and veterans issues. And next one, law of transitions, it could be members of the LGBTQIA plus as that moniker and acronym grows, whatever. Like at the time, because I represent a lot of underserved voices and audiences, and I'm the perfect, literally like the perfect straight white guy lawyer. That's what they needed. Like, hey, I need a guy who's like that guy. And I was happy to play that role for many, many years. These days, it's not as necessary because people have found and communities have found their voice. But in 2015, I thought law of transitions, that could be one subject. And then another subject is sobriety. I stopped drinking many, many years ago. And a lot of people are affected by substance abuse and alcoholism, other isms, right? So I thought that would be a good topic. And then I'm a runner and I'm an old guy and I'm trying to figure out running. So anyway, that's how my podcasting was born, brain was born. And then I could never pull it off because I didn't know how to make that happen. So as I kept learning, kept studying, and I'm still thinking it's going to happen, but in every moment I'm trying to figure out where it can land. but I don't know where and when it will. So I run my first 50K in 2019 in Griffith Park in LA, and I love it. I'm enjoying it. I'm thinking, oh, trail running is where I should be. So I start to do more and more trail runs and lead up to a couple of 50Ks. And I do my first 50 miler last year. And then in 2024, I'm at the Leona Divide race. I decided I'm just going to volunteer. I volunteer at the 92-mile aid station on the 100-mile course, or I guess it was the 42-mile aid station on the 50-mile course. And I'm out there making quesadillas in the middle of the night or early morning, and people coming through, and I see one guy, a bunch of older guys come through, and they're finishing the 50-miler. I'm like, good for them. I did that. That's cool, man. And at the time, I'm 60, I think, 61, 60. And a guy comes through, and he's in his 60s, and he doesn't want a quesadilla. He just gets some water, tops him off. And I said, what are you doing, man? He says, the 100 mile. I'm done. I've got 8 miles to go. I'm ready, man. I'm going. And in that moment, Troy, I'm looking at this guy as he took off. And I think to myself, like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I trying to accomplish, Mark? 50 miles not enough. What am I doing? I'm happy to serve the trail community. And in that moment, I think I realized, nope, I'm not done. I'm coming back. I'm going to do 100. What am I waiting for? And I'm going to do this race because this Leona Divide race meant so much to me. So I'm coming back to do this race. And as that started in my brain, the moment I said that, I'm like, I'm going to start training, and I'm going to start doing some videos, shooting myself and just seeing how it works. And as that started to come along, I'm training and I'm shooting videos and not putting them anywhere. I don't even know how to make a YouTube channel. I don't have the brand necessarily, right? But in my mind, I create the brand, but I don't know how it's going to get born. But I know it's about running long after 60, either run long after 60 or running long after 60, right? Everything broke quickly. May of 2025. Yep, that quickly, when the Cocodona finishers in the 60 to 69 age group, 14 people start, and I messed up this statistic once, but 3 people finish. 1 woman, 2 guys. Stephanie Irving, the only woman to finish. She finishes second of this 3. Paul Johnson, who finished, was a third of 3, and Kevin Flieger.
Our mutual friend, Paul James Johnson.
Yeah, Paul James Johnson. That's right. And Kevin Flieger, who was the first of that group, right? And so when I saw that, and I saw Stephanie Irving, and I realized how old she was, and I thought, okay, that's the story. If that's the story is there are people in their 60s who are just not stopping. And so in a very short amount of time, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm launching the podcast. I'm going to get these guys up and running. They are unicorns. I'm celebrating them all. And so I don't necessarily know how to do much of any of this. I don't exactly, I'm no Instagram specialist or none of that stuff. But I saw Stephanie Irving and Paul James Johnson, Paul M. Johnson. Sorry, you're right. No, Paul James Johnson. Yeah. His Instagram handle is I am Paul Johnson, but it's Paul James Johnson's name.
He's watching, so we have to be nice to Paul.
Yeah, right. He's great. He is great, man. The art of distraction. This guy signs up while I'm on interviewing me. He's like, oh, I found out this new Thailand 500, like for a Thai 500. So he runs a Thai 500 just a couple of weeks ago, but in the middle of a short way into it, something goes awry. I don't remember what happened. Something didn't work right. So he had to drop out of that race. But within 2 days, he and his crew, his son, CJ, within 2 days, like they find 100-kilometer race that they're going to do in Thailand, like still in Thailand. I'm like, you beast. That's the way to do it. So Troy, when I saw Stephanie, when I saw Paul, and I imagined Kevin, I'm like, there's got to be more people out there. So then every race from that Monster 300, the Cocodona to the Mammoth to Bigfoot, all these senior runners, older people, just doing crazy hard things. So I appreciate the kind words you said about the podcast. It's Run Long After 60. It's a YouTube podcast only, so it's video only, but only because of my own operator error. I haven't been able to streamline. I go from Riverside, and then I shoot an intro to each episode that's me out running somewhere. So I have to take that video, put it in Premiere Pro, edit it, push it back out. I haven't figured out the workflow to get it from all the video into audios, right? So, but I'm close.
It's cool what you do. I like how it works. So
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for just letting me rattle on here, man. I apologize for that just a little bit, not too much.
no, this is amazing. And I guess I'll ask you, I know we have to wrap up pretty soon, but what are your plans now? What are your running plans for the next year, for 2026? What are you looking at? What races are you doing and adventures do you want to have?
In my mind, I wanted to, by the time during my 62nd year, I wanted to run my first 100K, my first 100 miler, and my first 200 miler. This is my head. Why I'm in a rush to do these things, I'm not sure, but I feel like I'm definitely, in a rush to do them. In November, I started to run. I plan. My birthday's in September. So in November, my first 100K comes up. It's a nice race, not too much vert. It's really good. It's in Nevada, outside of Vegas, the Red Rock 100, Red Rock Canyon. I run it, but I get lost and I burn up a bunch of time getting lost on some loops, which is ridiculous, but happened. And so 2/3 of the way in, they have to pull me from the course because I timed out. So I handed in my bib, but I had a pacer with me and we kept running. So I still was able to run my age in miles. So I ran I actually ran 63 miles out of the 100, but I didn't finish the 100K. So that was the first shot. Next shot is Sean O'Brien 100K, the end of January. And Leona Divide 100 is in April. And then the Bigfoot 200 is in August. So I'm working, trying to do the right training and do it, see if I can do it. But, the data don't lie, Troy. So my goal is 100K at Sean O'Brien, 100 miler at Leona Divide, and 200 mile at Bigfoot. But the data about the training don't lie. And I'm trying to get faster, trying to get stronger, but...
Oh, sure. So tell us, for those who don't know, where is Leona Divide and where is the Bigfoot?
Sean O'Brien's in the Malibu Canyon Creek State Park in California. Leona Divide is also in California near Lake Hughes. You run part of the Pacific Crest Trail you cover on the Leona Divide. I ran the Leona Divide in April, the 50 miler, my first 50 miler last year, and finished in 20 hours, which to give you an idea, right? So I am slow. I am chasing the cutoff. There's no question about that. And, but I was really grateful. The great runner, Jesse Haynes, put the medal around my neck at Leona Divide. So it was really at 2 a.m, right? It was really fantastic. So, but the 100's no joke. And there's 16,400 feet of vert. I think it's 16,000 feet of vert in Sean O'Brien. I think there's 16,000 also in Leona Divide. So that's no joke. And this a tight cutoff. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't care. I'm going to at least start them. And then Bigfoot is in August, and you run around Mount St. Helens in Washington State. And so that's what I'm gearing up for this year. And I'm trying to be real too, though. So I know there's physical limitations, and I love to say data don't lie. So when I'm out there really pushing and trying really to get there, and I feel great, and then when I look at the watch or look at the data and say, well, okay, that was fantastic. Your average pace was 19 minutes. I'm like, okay. I mean, it was what it was. I wasn't trying to slack off. I was doing it. And so I think there's, strength training and other things. I think I have to work to get a little stronger, to get a little faster. And and I think also I'm learning a lot about choosing my races. Sean O'Brien and Leona Divide are in the backyard. They're part of the KH races, Kira Henninger's races. I'm so grateful for her and all her races that have allowed me to kind of come up through the ranks in my own trail running journey. And when she has a 100-mile race, the cutoffs for the 50K and the 100K and the 50 miler are really generous, because really the permits will get her to last through the 100 miles, right? So you have to get permits for 48 hours. She's one of the race directors like, look, I'm not going to, why penalize somebody artificially, for the 100K or the 50 mile, or, let them run. And so the cutoffs are really generous. And I think I've taken advantage of that. And now I have to put on my, as my dad used to say, got to put on your big boy pants, Mark. It's time to do it now, right? So that's what I feel like is happening right now. So
I've wondered, Mark, you tackle a 100-mile race and maybe you get comfortable with the 100-mile race. But I've wondered, in the United States, why do we jump to the 200-mile race from the 100-mile race? I mean, we don't do that normally. We don't go from, you're going to run a marathon, oh, now you're going to run a 100-mile race. I mean, some people do, and we've had guests on this program that do that. But by and large, it's a tall order to run 100 and then think you're going to run a 200, because it is a very different experience. And in some ways, it's maybe not as hard. It's a strange thing to say, but I tell people, there's a little bit less pressure for speed in some of the 200-mile races. But what's your thinking about that? Why in the United States we don't have the 135 like they have at UTMB? Why do we have this just automatic jump from 100 to 200 and no options in between for the most part?
And I think those are great questions. I think also the spine races have, races between 100 and 200, right? There's a lot.
Yeah, UK does, yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, I wanted to do something audacious for 2026. When I saw Paul Johnson and others, Katja Corbett, who's one of the greatest of all time, she runs so many 200s, like I've got to speak with her. So I think many of the unicorn guests that I have there, they're unicorn runners. So I think I'm inspired by that. And Paul Johnson has said this more than once, and others too. John Parks has said it, and basically every guy I've spoken with who's attempted a 200-miler, Cliff Matthews, everybody says it's just a different beast completely. And so so I know this, Troy, I know me, and I know I could walk across I could walk up and down California. I could do an FKT if there was nothing, if it wasn't necessary to do the FK part, right? So the fastest known time. So I just know I can go, I'm going to grind on until I'm not going to quit until I break a bone or I'm bleeding out. I know that for sure. And I think also Pamela Chapman Markle, who's the only human being who's run 10 Keys 100s. And she's run Badwater many times. There's so many people select races that really suit them because they can accomplish big goals, but also somehow they're particularly suited to that. And I'm not at that stage yet. But as I watch people, I'm thinking, oh, I know I could if I wanted to just be able to have a 100-miler under my belt, why not run XYZ? And I know across the years is an example of one. A lot of people have 100-mile belt buckles you would never imagine because you take as long as you want almost, but it's flat. And I think it's grinding, and I don't know. I don't think I'd like that. I did do a loop course over the summer, a 50K loop course, Elder Creek night runs. And it's the first loop course I ever did. It's like 7 loops, and it's a full moon at night. And that was really fun. And I just thought it was so much fun. I didn't think it was moving slow, but at the start of the last lap, I looked at the timer, I said, "I'm good to go." And he's like, it gives me that look. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And the race director is right there, Amanda Pennington. She's like, "Mark, you ready to go? This is the last lap. You got to go. If you're trying to you got to go." So I didn't even pick up any of the fueling, nothing that I had planned for the last lap. I don't care. I'm like, okay, I'm going. So sure enough, it was, I was happy to be, I was the only person running between, in my age group at all. And I finished. So I got the DFL and first place in the age group.
And DFL, for those who don't know, means what?
The dead freaking last. So you are the last person across the line. They have to shut the timer off sometimes. So like, let's say you got to get done by 10 hours of that. That's the race. Well, you can finish at 9:59, and then you be the dead last person. But you come in after that, nope, you did not, you don't get that medal.
It's all about beating the cutoff, though. You chased it and you beat it. So, and I'm excited to see what you're going to do next. And I really appreciate, Mark, for taking all this time. And let's do this again. I'm hoping maybe in a year, you want to just do this again. If you're up for it, I'd be honored if you think about it, because I'd like to see where you are in a year and what you can teach the rest of us. I'd be very inspired by that. I know others would too.
I love to. And I'm working on my next episode will come out in a week, and I'm trying to keep up a weekly pace. And my guests are not always big runners. Some people are like one woman I just interviewed. She's going to do her first ultra this year. And but everybody is older and staying focused and fit, and I love it. So I'd love to see it, Troy. And I will report back to you the next time I have another cutoff that I've chased, whether I've succeeded or not.
Perfect. All right, Mark Vega, thank you again. Thanks for being on. Godspeed.
Thank you, Troy.